I'm just going to try sharing the presentation. Okay, I think we can begin, Daniel and Yinka. A few people are still joining, but I think it's good now.
Good morning, all, and welcome to the 2023 Nigeria Fairwork Report launch. We'll start in 1 minute, just giving others some time to join. We'll just start on the. Okay, we're on the air now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2023 Nigeria Fairwork Report. Do we want to put the deck up, please? Thank you. My name is Olayinka David West. I'm a professor at the Lagos Business School, Pan Atlantic University, and the principal investigator for Fairwork Nigeria. Today, we're super excited to be launching the 2022-2023 Fairwork Scores for Nigeria. The Fairwork Project is an action research project that sheds light on the working conditions in the gig economy. Dr. Kemi Ogunyemi is a member of the faculty at the Lagos Business School, and her areas of teaching, research and consulting include ethics, anthropology, and sustainability. Joining the Fairwork Nigeria team to present the research that we've done over the year is Daniel Arubayi. Daniel is a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Oxford's Internet Institute, and he's also the country liaison and support person for the Nigeria Fairwork team. We're also honored to be joined by three panelists who will discuss the content and contextualize the report findings. I'm delighted to introduce Blessing Adesiyan. Blessing is the CEO of WorkLife, and she's been in the industry and working in that space for decades. We also have Ayoade Ibrahim. Ayoade is the Secretary General of Amalgamated Union of App-Based Transport Workers of Nigeria. And Java Anozie, a research associate with the Fairwork Nigeria team, will moderate the discussion and be part of that discussion as well. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll just share a little housekeeping rules with you before we start. Next slide, please. Thank you. So a little housekeeping. Well, we're fortunate to have a varied audience with a wide range of views, and we request that everyone's opinions and perspectives are respected in this space. For your awareness, this event is being recorded and will be posted on our website following the event. You can pose any questions using the Q&A tab at any time, and these will be answered towards the end of the session. Let's keep our questions concise as possible, and the questions will be visible to all attendees and can be upvoted or commented upon. And we will endeavor to follow up on any unanswered queries. And it's important that we keep the conversations going, because this is now Nigeria and this is gig work, and your opinions based on what you see, what you observe, and what you're hearing would be most important. So to discuss the range of risks and harms further and the aims of the Fairwork project, I'll hand over to our Fairwork country liaison, Dr. Daniel Arubayi. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome and warm greetings to everyone. Today is a very exciting day because we're launching the first comprehensive set of Fairwork scores for Nigeria. I say comprehensive because last year we launched like an observatory report where we looked at just 3 ride-hailing platforms, so Uber, Bolt, and InDriver. So I'll just tell you a little bit more about what Fairwork is about. Fairwork is an international research project based at the University of Oxford and in the UK, as well as WITSB Berlin Social Science Center in Germany. What we do around the world is we collaborate closely with workers, platforms, advocates, and policymakers to ensure and build a future, a fair future of work for everyone, especially platform workers. Through a global network of researchers based in 38 countries on 5 continents, Fairwork evaluates digital platforms' working conditions and ranks them based on 5 principles of fair work. Our Nigeria team, who will be presenting the research to you today, is based at Lagos Business School, as you've heard Professor Kemi talk about earlier. The research is in Nigeria, as you've heard, and has generously been funded by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, GIZ. And it's been a privilege working with Professor Yinka David West, Professor Kemi Ogunyemi, Ms. Amaka Java Anozie, and Ms. Chichi Chinere Emeshi, and the rest of the team, especially comms people behind Navneet and Alex. I'll briefly talk now a bit about the background of Fairwork project before the rest of the team presents the findings and results later on. Okay, thanks for the slide. The Fairwork project focuses on how work is experienced in the platform economy. By platform economy, I mean the sector of work created by digital label platforms like Glovo, Uber, which most of you know. Our starting point is that there's a whole range of risks and harms experienced by platform workers. What sorts of risks and harms do we talk about? First, around pay. Platform workers in Nigeria and most other places are classified as self-employed or independent contractors. That means it's possible and legal, totally legal, to pay platform workers below the minimum wage. And so there are many platforms and workers in Nigeria too who don't earn enough to make a decent living. Secondly, working conditions. A lot of platforms work in inherently risky gigs. Delivery drivers go in and out of traffic. Ride-hail drivers frequently get assaulted and treated badly by passengers without much being done. They're also exposed to accidents with little or no safety nets to fall back on. If something goes wrong, if you can't work on many platforms, you don't get any income. Thirdly, on management, there's usually no due process when it comes to disciplinary or dismissal procedures. Workers who depend on a platform can be kicked off the app without any sort of fair due process. If they get low rating or if they're being treated unfairly by a customer, sometimes they get deactivated from the platform unknowingly. Fourth, individualization. There are trade unions and associations in Nigeria, e.g. the AUATWON, which has been recently recognized by the government, and other countries doing important work organizing platform workers and trying to hold platform companies to account, including some presented at this event today. But overall, most platform workers don't have the sort of collective associational structural power that we in other sectors have. So they're in a structurally weak bargaining position, which allows platforms to unilaterally degrade wages and working conditions. So as a reaction to these risks and harms, what we set out to do is in the platform project is shed light on how work is experienced in the platform economy. And what we've done is we co-develop a set of fair work principles, which you can see on the screen, with people and organizations that they impact. And we carry out research to evaluate platforms against those principles. And thirdly, we use this research to give every platform a fair work score. That is a score out of 10, as you see later on, which my colleagues will explain a bit later. Our hope is that our scores spotlight where platforms are stepping up and offering fairer working conditions for workers. Yet they also show us where that isn't happening. As you see, most of the platforms in Nigeria aren't able to evidence that they have minimum standards of work in place. However, there's a differentiation in scores, with some platforms scoring better than others. That means that some platforms have better practices, and some platforms have the ability to improve their practices as well. Rather than simply highlighting the shortfalls, the goals of Fair Work is to work with platforms and provide resources to help them institutionalize better standards. So these are the please can you go back one slide? Thank you. So the principles, the first one on pay. So workers, irrespective of their unemployment classification, should earn a decent income in their home jurisdiction after taking account of work-related costs and active hours. Fair conditions. Platforms should have policies and practices in place to protect workers from risk using the processes of work. Fair contracts. Terms and conditions should be transparent, concise, and always accessible to workers. Fair management. There should be a documented due process for decisions affecting workers. And the fifth principle, which is fair representation, platforms should provide a documented process through which worker voice can be expressed. Next slide, thanks. Thank you. The Fair Work principles form the basis for how we score platforms. Each principle you've seen is broken down into 2 points, a first point and a second point that we can award. Every platform receives a score out of 10, and platforms are only given a point when they can satisfactorily demonstrate their implementation of the principles. I must note that failing to achieve a point does not necessarily mean that the platform does not comply with the principle in question. It simply means that we were unable to evidence its compliance. So how do we calculate these scores and how do we come about this? We have three research paradigms, which we have the desk research, which I don't know if that's what's showing on the screen at the moment. I think the next slide, please. Thank you. We have the desk research. The process starts with us getting information about the background of the platform, the city, noting the largest and most influential platforms, information of note for the scoring process. And we have the platform interviews, the second method, which is about like getting evidence from platforms. We interview platform managers and we request evidence of how they comply to our principles. And finally, we have like the worker interviews. Usually we aim to have 6 to 10 worker interviews. These interviews do not aim to build a representative sample. They instead seek to understand the process of work and the ways it's carried out and managed. And putting all of this together, final scores are collectively decided by the Fairwork team based on all 3 forms of evidence. The Fairwork scores are peer-reviewed by the country team, the Oxford team, and 2 peer reviewers from other Fairwork country teams in our 38 country network. This provides consistency and rigor to the scoring process. Points are only awarded if there are clear evidence for each principal threshold. So at this juncture, I'm just gonna pass it on to my colleague, Professor Kemi Ogunyemi, who also will be taking us through the Nigeria background and as well as our findings this year. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Inka, and thank you to the rest of our team. So to just give a bit of a background, Nigeria is Africa's largest economy, and we have a very young population. The median age is about 18.1 years, and we have very high unemployment rates. And perhaps because of this and because of the digital revolution, the increased intelligence density, this idea of working for platforms has been a very welcome one. It has been an opportunity for people to get self-employed and therefore to be more financially empowered. And since up to 2008, when platforms started moving in, starting with the marketplace platforms like Jumia and Konga that are generalized, the ones that were more specialized, like the one for vehicles, Kamundi, or the one for travel, Kemu, and the financial services platforms and the workplace platforms like Jobberman that links people to jobs. Since then, there has been a lot of growth and it has impacted on employment and tech entrepreneurship. Digital labor platforms are particularly useful because they provide the opportunity for earning a livelihood for many people. There are people that are unemployed, there are people that are underemployed in Nigeria. And this was like a welcome chance to be self-employed and to earn money, which was part of the selling message for many of the platforms. The ride-hailing platforms have also helped the users, not only the drivers who have that opportunity to work and earn money, but also the users of the transportation system in Nigeria. Our focus was particularly Lagos State, and we all know how much help it would be to be able to have an alternative to the regular taxi that we used to have in Lagos. So we then had this ride-hailing platforms that would serve to give us another alternative that would give us better security, using navigating techniques like Google Maps, the comfort of having the cab come to pick you wherever you are, even if you're off the major road networks. So it has given a lot of value to users as well. So drivers went in hoping that this would be an avenue for entrepreneurial growth, partnering with the platform and making money. Specifically, we looked at Uber, we looked at Bolt, we looked at LagRide in this 2022 data collection. And we realized that the dreams are not so easily realized. There are a number of things that workers were expecting that they don't necessarily get, partly because the working conditions are not always fair, and partly because the space is not so well regulated yet. The gig economy is still relatively new to the country. Apart from the ride hailing, we have a second major category that we looked at, delivery and logistics. There we have Gokada, Glovo, Kwik, Jumia Food, and Bold Food. And they have similar concerns, the equity in the system, security and safety concerns. So while the platform economy continues growing, there are more and more players entering the field, more and more workers joining the race. In fact, even if one worker stops, there's always a new worker to take their place. At the same time, platform workers have a lot of concerns. Some of them will be the same as what the ones Daniel has mentioned in general, and some will be specific to their own sector, whether it's ride-hailing or delivery. For 2022, we interviewed workers, about 100 from 8 platforms, and we contacted the management teams of these platforms. So we raised the concerns of the workers with the platforms. What are those concerns? Some, they include the unilateral nature of contractual modifications, for example, or the fairness of the value distribution, how the value is shared, the percentages that goes to the platform and that go to the actual workers, or the fact that they are on the fringes of the labor laws that exist in Nigeria. So they don't have a lot of protection when they are not treated fairly, like when they are deactivated arbitrarily, or when they have health hazards that derive precisely from their occupation. Because they are not employees, they're independent contractors, then they don't have easy recourse to the law, because the law doesn't specifically address the issues of platform workers. According to many of our interviewees, they realize that, yeah, there's a lot of demand for their work, and because platforms want to stay competitive, demand continues going high. But at the same time, many of them stop this work because they have hazards, they encounter hazards, and they don't have protection, neither from the platforms nor from the government. Some continue because they don't have any alternative, but it's a tough life because of security issues, and also because in order to get enough money from the system, they multi-app or they work many extra hours. So generally, there is a need to encourage platforms to treat their partners better, their worker partners, and also a need to encourage the government to do more to protect workers. Now, our key findings follow. We interacted with 4 of the platforms majorly because 4, we reached out to them, but they didn't respond. Out of the 4 that responded, only Glovo provided the evidence that we could use to do the scoring. So that's why they're the only ones with scores. We're looking forward to getting evidence from the other platforms for the 2023 scoring round. So as you see from the chart, for fair pay, the first principle, only Glovo gave us sufficient evidence that their workers earn above the minimum monthly wage. Nigeria's monthly wage, minimum wage is 30,000 Naira, about $65. And well, Glovo's workers definitely earn beyond this. We also checked for the second half of this principle. The second point there would be whether the workers earn a living wage, the local living wage for Lagos State, and we couldn't get evidence for this. For fair conditions, we could see, we found that there are grievances related to safety and security for both drivers and delivery riders. And Glovo gave us evidence that they have policies in place to effectively protect their workers from this risk. They give them safety training. They have the SOS buttons that are being used effectively. They have protective gear provided for free, such as helmets, raincoats for their riders. And for this, they earned the point for that. For the second point, for fair conditions, we didn't have any evidence from any of the platforms about income security when the drivers or the riders fall ill or are unable to work, unless this came from an accident that occurred while they're actually on a trip. So if they have any other accident that is not during an actual trip, they don't have that recourse. Looking at fair contracts, we also got evidence from Glovo that their terms and conditions are clear and transparent and subject to Nigerian law rather than foreign law. For the second point, all the platforms, as far as you could see from their terms and conditions, have clauses that exclude them from liabilities concerning the working relationship. And therefore the risks seem to be more on the workers than on the platforms. So we didn't award any points for this. With regard to fair management, Glovo gave us the evidence that they have a due process for decisions that affect platform workers. They also showed us that they have effective communication channels and an appeals process when workers are deactivated. As I already said, we didn't get evidence from the other platforms regarding this. And for the second point, we didn't have any sufficient evidence about anti-discrimination policies on the part of the platforms that are proactive, or policies that are inclusive of disadvantaged groups. We weren't given any evidence on that. With regard to fair representation, we don't have evidence from any of the platforms yet that they ensure freedom of association or that they encourage collective worker voice. We didn't see any evidence that they recognize independent collective bodies of trade unions. In fact, there was no trade union acknowledged by the government until last year. So hopefully, looking into the future, the platforms may be able to do more in this regard and be able to provide evidence again for the round this year. Now, coming to other findings, next slide, please. As we said, only one platform gave us sufficient evidence that they met the minimum wage, but we are encouraging all platforms to keep working towards this, because we could see from the interviewing that there are all kinds of costs that affect the workers' ability to earn, except for lag ride, where there is already an algorithm to help them raise the money for maintaining their vehicles. For the other platforms, it's mostly the workers that have to bear all those costs directly. And then we have the issues of safety remain: assaults, robbery, hijacking of their cars or bikes. These are issues that they continue facing, and we think that platforms should do more to help them mitigate this risk. So for example, there's a lot of profiling going on to assure user safety, but there is not so much profiling of users in order to also increase worker safety. Then we also have found that platform workers feel that they don't have social security, which other workers may have because of where they work or because of who they partner with. They don't have safety net provisions that would have come under regulations like the labor law if they were regular employees. They don't have easy recourse for grievances. They don't have their voices heard. So we're hoping that more and more platforms will do something about this, and that the government will also do something about this. We have also observed that there are few women in the platform economy in Nigeria. There are women drivers, but compared to the numbers of male drivers, I mean, we're very much underrepresented. And in the delivery ecosystem, there are much fewer women, but you can almost count them very easily. They are very few. So we think that this may be also partly to the safety and security concerns, and there should be opportunities for women also in this sector to have the employment opportunities that their male counterparts have, and the opportunities for financial self-reliance that their male counterparts have. And then just to mention, as I already mentioned, that there is now official recognition from the government of the first platform union, AUATWON. So hopefully there should be more collective voice from workers to be able to also negotiate with the platforms that they work with. Now, on the 13th of April, we will hold a stakeholder forum to which everyone here is invited, and at which we will discuss the preliminary insights from the 2023 data collection from 12 platforms this time. And at this point, I will hand over to Java my colleague and team member to start the panel. We have the panelists ready to share with us as well their insights. Okay, sorry, the pledge comes first. Okay, thank you. So I hand you over back to Professor David West.
Okay, thank you all. And thank you, Kemi, for those fantastic insights. And as you can see, we still have a lot of work to do in the Nigerian space to ensure that all the gig workers that are working in this space really have fair representation and there's fair work going on the platforms. Now, one of the other things the Fairwork project does is to seek participation of everybody in the ecosystem with the Fairwork Pledge. And the range of scores that the platform companies get shows that low pay, exploitation, and dangerous working conditions are not inevitable outcomes of platform work, but rather choices made by the platform companies. And those choices can be unmade or can be revised. But change won't happen by itself. We need your help. We need your support. So we're asking organizations who share this vision to bring about a fairer world of work to pledge to encouraging platforms to do better. And this is a social movement around just encouraging and lending our support and our voices to ensure that platforms do better. So the pledge is open to businesses, academic institutions, schools, charities, civil society organizations, governments, religious organizations, socially responsible investors, and any other type of organization. The organization pledge is to use good scoring platforms, right? In doing so, you can help uphold platforms to account. You can do your part by signing your organization to the Fairwork Pledge. And it's free and easy to do. And you can learn more about the Fairwork Pledge at fairwork.com/pledge. So basically, I would now hand over to Java, and we hope that you will join this movement as we started it in Nigeria in earnest. So I will now hand over to Java, who would now introduce this panelists and engage in a discussion around what we can practically do, encourage and support to make Nigeria and platforms operating in Nigeria fair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor David West. And my name is Java. I'm a research assistant with Fairwork. Prof had already introduced our two panelists, but I'm going to introduce them again. But before I do that, please, you can post questions that you have from the discussion so far in the chat, and questions you have for the panelists from what they will say, etc. You can post in the chat and I'll ask them after I ask them some questions. Okay, we have two panelists here. We have Blessing Adesiyan and Ayoade Ibrahim. Blessing is the founder of Mother Honestly, MH WorkLife, and WorkLife Africa, where she's building care infrastructure for today's workforce and workplaces. She spent over 15 years in 1,400 companies such as Microsoft and DuPont, where she built operational and business excellence framework across the States, the United States, Europe, Africa, Middle East, and Asia. She's a champion for employees of all kinds. So we have we need you here for employees of all kinds, especially caregivers, being a mother of 4 herself, with kids in the teenage, toddler, and baby stages. Ayoade is the co-founder and the Secretary General of the Amalgamated Union of App-Based Transport Workers of Nigeria, that's AUATWON. He's been involved in platform work for many years now, and he is the Vice President of the International Alliance of App-Based Transport Workers and organizers of app-based transport workers since 2016. Okay, welcome, Blessing, and welcome, Ayoade. It's an honor to have you joining us for this lunch. So I'll invite you, each of you, to answer a broad question about the current state of the platform economy in Nigeria. You've each got a wealth of experience thinking about policy in the platform economy. and thinking about ways to push back the erosion of power away from workers. So please draw on that experience and feel free to put anything you're saying into conversation with either what you've heard so far from Professor Yinka, from Dr. Kemi, from Daniel, or from myself. Okay, so Blessing, my first question is to you. Okay, so most work on platforms, they're not 9 to 5 jobs. The workers choose when they want to work. And because the more you work, the more you earn, these workers sometimes spend 10, 12, or 14 hours on the job. What do you think platforms should do to reduce overworking and to improve the health and well-being of platform workers?
Thank you so much first of all, for having me. And I truly appreciate the work that Fairwork is doing, along with Lagos Business School and the University of Oxford. I think, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because we live in an economy where, quite frankly, people are not making enough money. I think Dr. Kemi mentioned, the living wage and the minimum wage, which we all know is, it's far from reality, right? The gap between what we think the living wage should be and what the minimum wage is, at least in Lagos, which I think is 30,000 naira. I don't know, how much it is in other states. But it's very hard for us to, sort of put a line in the sand and say, oh, this is how many hours people should work to make X amount of money, because more than likely, the average gig worker in Nigeria wants to maximize the number of hours they work, because, the more they work, the more they earn. But we also know that, overworking conditions can lead to health problems. It can lead to mental health challenges. And quite frankly, can be unsafe, especially when we look at, demographics like women in our society, where, you probably don't want to be working late hours, right? In a society that has no infrastructure, right, for the safety of women. So I think that, one of the ways that we can start putting, I think the first course of action is really for us to quantify what a living wage is. And I think that that's where we need to start from, is what is a living wage in whether it's various parts of Nigeria. I think we can start with Lagos or, Lagos, Abuja, and other states, and really try to understand what will it take for people to actually live well and work well. Right. And once we understand that, I think in the US, we go by, a living wage is, you take 30% of your income and that goes towards your mortgage, or it goes towards your house rent, and everything else is, 70%. So if we can come up with some kind of equation where we can then walk ourselves back and say, okay, based on these numbers, this is what, we think should be a living wage. Minimum, right? For, whether you're a gig worker or you are in the, in the traditional employment, right? This is what everyone should be making as a living wage. And I think that that's where we can go from there. Now, in terms of security, or in terms of how do we reduce these overworking conditions, I think this really is going to take, working collaboratively with these platforms, and really trying to understand what are the employment practices, what are the labor practices that they are going to put in place to ensure that, okay, if you've worked 12 hours, if you've worked 10 hours, maybe you do need a break. I remember when I used to, my background is in chemical engineering, so I used to work in manufacturing. And a lot of times, we had hourly workers, and they would work, 12 hours straight. And so it was my responsibility as a leader to say, look, if you've worked 12 hours, you need at least an 8-hour break in between before you can pick on another shift. So we need to look at practices like that to make sure that we're building in place an opportunity for employees to take that downtime. Well, they're not employees, they're contractors. So we need to build those kind of things in place. to ensure that, people can take that break. But again, like I said, it's a double-edged sword, because if you have a dad that is trying to, or a mom trying to make school fees, and they feel like they need to work 16, 18 hours in order to make that money up, then, you're basically saying that, hey, you need to stop working and not make that money up for your family. So I think also communicating, right, and just being transparent with the contractors that your well-being is of importance to us. And you can have that communication, right, if you're paying fairly. So part of this is how do we achieve pay equity and pay transparency? And how do we create a working condition that allows everyone to thrive? So I hope that helps.
Yes, that helps a lot. Well, there's a lot of work to do to balance these points that you have made. Okay, I'm going to introduce our third panelist whom I missed. I'm very sorry. His name is Azuka Opofu. Mr. Azuka Opofu is the Managing Director of BOI Microfinance Bank, which is a subsidiary of the Bank of Industry Limited, where he previously served as the Assistant General Manager and Group Head under the Small and Medium Enterprises Directorate. He was also the Project Manager for the N-Power Volunteer Program and has worked in various roles in investment banking and commercial banking. Welcome, Mr. Azuka Emmanuel Opofu. Thank you for joining us. Okay.
Maka, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, and my apologies that I joined late. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, my next question is to Ayoade Ibrahim, the Secretary General. Ayoade, as the Secretary General of the first official union for platform workers, what are some of the stumbling blocks to ensuring that platform workers' rights are upheld in Nigeria? Have you thought of any solution to these challenges?
Yes, thank you so much. Let me just make this appreciation to federal government of Nigeria that give us the first app-based worker union in Africa. And I can count it maybe in over the world, maybe 3 or 4. And it's a very breakthrough in Nigeria, because we really appreciate, especially the Minister of Employment, His Excellency, Dr. Igege, because it's not easy. We have been fighting for this for a couple of years, 7 years precisely, and the road is very rough. So that's for that. Concerned to the questions, there's no changes in our relationship with app companies, despite the fact that they know that we have a platform legally to fight for our rights. And this is the challenge. You can even pick it up from the Fairwork mark. How can the organization will not respond to the questions? This is the breach of the law, and this is what they have been doing all over the world. If they can do that to an organization like Fairwork, what do you think that will happen to us that we don't have that kind of muscle? So everything is still the way it is. In fact, as I'm talking to you now, we have wrote about 3 letters after we got our certifications. There's no response from both all these app companies, especially the leading one, Bolt and Uber. As I'm even talking to you now, there's another letter I want to dispatch today concerned to another policy that Bolt just introduced yesterday. And most of our drivers have been blocked out of the platform. So there is no changes, despite the fact that we have the platform. But the good news is this: now we have been fighting for 7 years without legal backing. That now we have a legal back. We have a platform that we can force out our problem to the government, to everybody to hear us in a legitimate way, unlike before, or when we are not having any legal backing, or we are just doing it as a stubbornness or strong-head or what have you, just risk our life on the streets and what have you. But the good news now is that we have a platform that everybody can recognize with. The solution we are trying to bring on board now, thank God in our union, my president is an academician, I am a street boy, and we are trying to join our head together
to come up with the solution. And what we first did is to harmonize all our members all over the world. In fact, that one was the sign out for somebody that will do our website to bring everybody into a particular place so that we can communicate with them if there's any information. And the beautiful things about our industry is technology-driven system. In fact, I've been mobilizing since 2016. I hardly see half of my member. So we saw ourselves on Zoom. In fact, if you call for the actions, not every one of them will come out. So we want to use that platform to identify every member of our union. In fact, every app driver in Nigeria, and they will generate a code for them for safety. So these are the projects. I don't want to bore you with how we want to do it. And the time on, we see how we want to build up that platform that will helping us. The second solution we are looking at is to call for a stakeholder meeting in the ways that we invite including even Fairwork, everybody, for a stakeholder dialogue introduction meeting to even we invite all these platform workers, both Glovo, everybody to let us even come and to that kind of seminar. We are looking to that direction to, that kind of seminar and program need a lot of involvement of everything. So the top place we are trying to do now is to reach out back to the Ministry of Labor and give us a powerful letter and write this to all these app companies. And we can be able to, they can be able to reach out to them. We wrote a letter, they don't respond. Maybe if the Ministry of Labor writes them, and we can be able to come up with something that's tangible. Well, through my president and me and every of our team, we are trying to reach out to the Ministry of Transport so that we know most of our department is from Ministry of Transport, and they are the first of all for us to tell them the kind of program we have and how they can come in to assist us. These are the plan we put in place. I know it's not going to be easy, but now we must not fail because all Africa is looking at us and they want to see the magic we want to perform after we are legalized as a union. So that one gives us a lot of prayer and put us in a position that we have to be a good example. And how do we do that? There's no any template in our industry. There's no any template because we cannot use the template of traditional union to operate in our industry. It won't work like that. Although we are learning from the traditional union, they are the one that even build us to this level. But after that, mainly we deal with technology. So when we are talking about algorithm, a leader of the union must know the function of algorithm because algorithm is the word you will do the collective bargaining on. For example, if somebody work in 2 hours in boat, 2 hours in Uber, 2 hours across like 5 platforms, and they want to do collective bargaining. If you are not strong enough to know the meaning of algorithm, you will not be able to do the collective bargaining and get the actual entitlement of your member. So we are trying to bring up the kind of training too. And talking about algorithm, talking about gridboard, talking about GPS, talking about all those things that are related to our income. For example, all our price mechanism basically on algorithm. And the algorithm have been used in many other organizations too, like back industry, they using the ATM. That is why you put your card and you just put 2,000 naira there and they give you the 2,000 naira. They use algorithm to move all those things. And this one makes us to be in a position of, we have to understand what we are doing. Because if we don't understand what we are doing, there is no way we will help our member, and there is no way we get out of this problem. Because the organization we are dealing with, they have a lot of things with it. The other area is when we are talking about policy, even not only in Nigeria, in Africa, that I'm aware of, there is no good policy that really tailor on how the government can assist or can help the worker under the platform. Even the government is sought out in terms of tax, in terms of what have you. So if we want to do that policy is not meant for the politician that just coming from somewhere. That policy needs to be made for the experts, people like the Fairwork, the professor, the people that are really in that aspect. Join with the politician, maybe National Assembly, maybe State House Assembly, so that I can advise them properly before they instigate a law, a policy that will help. So these are the areas we are trying to work on, and as time goes on, I will still continue to expatiate more on it. Let me just stop for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ayoade. So our next question is for Mr. Azuka, who has a lot of experience in the bank of industry. So Mr. Azuka, following the high unemployment rates of 33% in Nigeria, increased cost of living, inflation, and so forth, we've observed more and more people, young people especially, getting into platform work. But as we can see from the scoring, from what we've heard so far, these are not exactly quality jobs. Based on your experience, to what extent do you think that platform work can meaningfully contribute to addressing the unemployment problem in Nigeria? And then how can platforms improve the quality of work for drivers, for couriers, for domestic workers, etc.?
Thank you very much, Amaka. The statistics you just reeled out, over 33% unemployment rate in Nigeria is a fact, and that this has given rise to an increase in youths engaged by platform work. But we also agree that this is not sustainable in the long run, because we know that platform work usually characterized by low wages. There is no security, there's lack of security, there's no health insurance, no pension benefits. It's different from the traditional employment. So with the income derivable is a fact in the short run, but is not what can be sustained in the long run. So this is essentially because of the situation we have in the country, where we have an unusually high unemployment rate. The platform work, they can improve the quality of their workforce by, providing training, to drivers, to domestic staff, to couriers workers, capacity building, so that they can increase their earning potentials. They can train these people so that they can also create opportunities for growth for them in the organizations, so that they can begin to see some comparable characteristics with traditional employment. So they're already aware that there's no insurance, there are no security, no pension benefits for platform work. But when the owners of platform work decide to include or infuse these attributes, some people might begin to see that it might just be for a longer stay, not what they would take on the long run. But I believe that platform work can offer these benefits. When they offer these benefits, health insurance, retirement savings, improve the security of the workforce, build their potentials to earn more, then yes, we can say fairly they have improved, they try to improve the dignity of their workers. Then why not? We can say they are actually bringing something to the table that can keep these people engaged for a while. But like I said, it's not sustainable in the long run. It's just a shift arrangement. It's a stopgap arrangement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. In the next round of questions, we're going to begin with you again, Mr. Azuka, but I'll just ask for the sake of time that our panelists give us brief answers as possible to the questions. So, Mr. Azuka, we know from some of the delivery workers interviewed that the Lagos state government has introduced a 7.5% tax on every delivery made. Platforms don't want to lose their customers by imposing the burden on the customers. So they split the tax between themselves and the workers. The workers earning. Isn't this double taxation? Is there a better way to handle this?
Thank you so much, Amaka. So I agree with you. It's double taxation because the platforms, I mean, these are established companies, they pay company tax. And I mean, these workers also pay payee. So when the Lagos state government decides to introduce additional tax, so it's double taxation. But I believe that platforms can actually engage the state government. Let it be a continuous engagement so that these taxes can be avoided or taken out completely. You can imagine what you are aware of what recently happened in the telecoms industry. All right. Yeah, the telecoms might be very big and more organized, but I believe that these platforms can also put themselves in form of an advocacy group, engage, regulate the government, say this is double taxation, find a way to eliminate it so that, we don't lose our customers and our workers. We already, they are not even entitled to minimum wage, all right? There's not like minimum wage, their job is secured, low wages. So when you begin to tax them more, it's double taxation, but the platform can engage Lagos state government so that these taxes can be eliminated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next question is to Blessing. Blessing, I understand your scope is focused on building a care infrastructure for employees to live healthier, happier, and successful lives. Considering platform workers are independent contractors, not employees, have you thought of any transferable strategies that can be useful for these workers?
Absolutely. So I think first of all, especially in Nigeria, our working lives is not working, right? So whether it's platform workers or even traditional employees, and I think part of it is is what Ayoade Ibrahim mentioned, when he sort of level set every one of us around the lack of accountability, right? And the lack of transparency. And the reality that Daniel mentioned, which is, the fact that we have no social safety net in this country to even support workers in general. And so if we're not even supporting traditional employees, how much more platform workers. And so I think that in terms of building care infrastructure or scaffolding, a lot of that work cannot even happen until we sort of have real and tangible laws that protect the right of workers and protect their dignity. And I think that's sort of, in my mind, where we need to start. And then the second piece is, how do we get these employers to, to work with us? and I think, I already mentioned, we're asking for surveys, we're asking for, people to come to the table, and we're being, there's a lot of pushback. And I think that, we live in a society where people, even organizations believe they can get away with anything, or organizations think that maybe by sending them a survey, you're trying to scapegoat them, right? Or you're trying to call them out for something that they're not doing. And so there's a lot of pushback there. So I think, in my mind, is there a way for us to continue to have these conversations where, we're not saying, hey, we think you're doing the wrong thing, but we're basically saying, can we have real and honest conversation about the well-being of your employees, the well-being of the workers on your platform? And is there a way for us to, in every sense, collaborate, to make sure that we protect the productivity? Because at the end of the day, I think, a lot of this is education, right? It's for those employers to understand that what we are even trying to do is in so many ways going to support the work that they do. right? Because if your employees feel valued and they feel like their work is protected, then you are in so many ways protecting the productivity.
Okay, Java is back. Welcome back, Java. I'm sorry for the technical problem. Sorry, everyone, as well. So you can go ahead. I think we're.
Sorry, everyone, especially to Blessing, you were saying.
I was just wrapping up my point. I think we need to find a middle ground between this platforms and what we're trying to accomplish. And so whether that is helping them understand how the employee experience ties back to productivity, performance, and the bottom line of the organization, and continue to find ways to have dialogue. So definitely starting from there. And I noticed, somebody asked the question around, what are some of the gender findings from the report as well. And I think it'll be worthwhile to also understand, did we find any pay gaps? I know that, we discussed whether it's sexual violence or the lack of safety, right? When it comes to, gig workers, I'm not exactly sure how much of that is related to gender. So I think definitely understanding that as well, and really helping these companies understand that even though, right, I say this all the time, a lot of these companies are banking on the fact that there's a high unemployment rate in this country. And so people are just going to work, for whatever they get. And even though that is the case, can we set an agenda that really and truly elevates companies that are doing the right thing? And in my mind, shame companies that are not doing the right thing. And maybe your company is no longer going to be a company of choice, whether it's for investors, whether it's for the average consumer, whether it's even the ability to retain those gig workers, if they completely understand how much you are against doing the right thing. So I think we start from there and see where that gets us. But it's a very challenging task in this kind of environment.
Thank you very much, Blessing. So we go now to Ayoade, Ibrahim. We have a question for you from the audience, which ties with one of the questions that I already had for you, which is that platform workers have been contributing to the economy in the past. Now that they have been unionized, you have been unionized, what do we expect with their new status as a trade union? And what role do unions have to work towards better provisions from the government and from the companies, the platform companies?
Thank you so much. The principle of union is to betterment the life of its member, which is welfare and collective bargaining. On that aspect, we expect good condition of work, fair pay, fair contract, fair management. And with that, because Fairwork have already opened work for us, they have already put a base for us now. We know where we are in Nigeria. And there is now remain for us as a union to dig deeper and make sure that all those loopholes, the reason why the have companies not coming on board, and why are they not telling us what they are doing? So I think as a union, we do that to make sure that to navigate through of our member. But the most important thing is we have lost a lot of people in bigger economy in Nigeria through accidents. That accident in two places. Number one, fatigue. And what causes fatigue is because of low pay price mechanism. For example, Nigerian labor law says that you should work 8 hours and get rest. In fact, out of that 8 hours, you have 1 hour to go for break. But on our own work, we don't have any time of closing. And if people are not making money, automatically they will work more. I always tell people that you are not driving a car after 6 or 6 hours. After 6 hours, 7 hours, you are guiding a car and you are driving yourself. This one will cause a fatigue, and the fatigue will cause an accident. So we now link the accident to the price mechanism, which is pay. Another aspect of accident is most of the people outside there, they think gigi workers have money, and that is why you see they always target us in terms of robbery, hijacking, and what have you. And what they did not understand is that they may see our board. When you give somebody your platform board, where they normally put our income, you may see some thousands of naira there. But if we begin to explain to you that that money you see there is not coming to our pocket directly, because they have to remove a commission, they have to remove some certain levy along the line. For example, now, despite the fact that people are seeing that we are still in a problem of safety, and our members will be assured now that issue of safety will be looked into. Issue of commission will be looked into. See, this is a business. Let's put it on the table. Let's have company tell us the reason why they will take XYZ commission. Let us tell them the alternative of you cannot take or you can take. So that all of us were on the same page. But as now, our member does not even know how many commission they take from them. For example, Uber take 25%. But when we work it practically work it by ourselves, it's more than that. Likewise goes. So all those things, we as a union will look at it, and we can be assured to our member that you have a good security, you have safety, and their life will be improved. And we do everything possible through government, through program like this, through collaboration, dialogue, and what have you, to bring back the glory that's supposed to be in the gig economy, and everybody will be happy for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayoade. Our next question is from the audience from Osita and Daniel. So Osita is saying that I commend the panelists, Fairwork and LBS for your projects. Are you trying to partner or collaborate with the labor officer of the Federal Ministry of Labor and Productivity on data aggregation and deepening the Fairwork principles in Nigeria? Because the labor officer is statutorily recognized under the Labor Act. Daniel, over to you.
Yes, I mean, at Fairwork, we basically are looking to partner with or dialogue with relevant stakeholders. And that's why, for example, Kemi mentioned earlier, we'll be having the stakeholder workshop next month. So it's as a starting point, they can come to this event where we talk about some of these challenges and potentially look at how we can propagate or talk more about the Fairwork principles. In that event, we first of all introduce the principles, which I think, not everyone knows about the Fairwork principles now in Nigeria. As you can see, it's the first year. So it'll be a comprehensive way to have that engagement. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation. And if you have any links to having this conversation with the Labor Ministry, please send it to our Nigeria team as well. It would be very helpful. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. And Obed is asking, and this is, I throw it to any of the panelists, that talking about union, there's a lot of divisions in the case of Ghana. There are so many of them that it's difficult for stakeholders to regulate the speed. How is it like for Nigeria? I think Ayoade, you want to answer this question.
Yes, because I'm very comfortable to Ghana. I know what they are going through. We normally, talk. I do go there to see some kind of things. To me, in Nigeria here, we have the same thing. Because the reason why our industry is different from any other industry is that we don't have pushover in our industry. The least person you can see in our own industry is degree holder or HND or ND. And in that kind of environment, you cannot just push people around. You have to show off what you want to say. So this one brings different ideology, different thinking, because somebody may think left, another person say, no, if we take right, we quickly get us there. So that ideology, bring everybody apart. So, and coupled with, there is no legislation union that know by law that represents the industry. By then, now that we have it, what we do is this, so that it can be an example for the other part of the Africa that is working with us. There's a lot of it. What we did is that we collaborated together, about four, let me just say, four nurse maker activists of the Nigeria Association, and we brought together, and the Ministry of Labor do a lot of work, and Nigeria Labour Congress, they do a lot of work to harmonize us, and that is why I address myself as a co-founder. So three of us will come together. But we still have many associations on board. What we do for those one is that, okay, we go to states, every one of you will take any state you are very strong, let's take that state and let's do election there, and let's give those places. What we are doing is that give and take, we give everybody opportunity, inclusion. That's what we did in our union, and we are still continuing to collaborate and talk to people. So that is what is bringing us together. Like Ghana, you mentioned, I will connect that. There's a union there called NADU, and that NADU is the one that is, affiliated to TUC, if I don't make any mistake. That NADU have about 11 associations under them together. I think Ghana too is getting it right with some information, because I heard that this week they will have an inauguration at TUC Ghana, so that they can come together. It's normal in our industry because we have a lot of knowledge people and intelligent people. And that kind of environment, you don't think that you can just come and tell people and they will just take it for that. That is what really causes it. Nigeria have, summoned that, and then we are working on it, and then we're improving on it. And the sky is just a beginning for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's another question from Obed, actually his first question, which is, are there any gendered perspective from Nigeria's case? This question is for you, Daniel. Are there any gendered perspective from Nigeria's case from the 5 principles of fair work?
If I understand your question correctly, like if the principles have respond to gender more or less. Yes, for example, principle 4.2, actually throughout all the principles, but specifically that one, we look at anti-discrimination. And one thing we found as well in the interviews this year was aspects of women being discriminated when driving, especially for ride-hailing platforms, where you have, I think we also noted this in the report, where you have men saying stuff like, oh, a woman shouldn't be driving me, or women are not supposed to be driving, or stuff like this. I mean, the platforms, in some platforms that do not have like these anti-discrimination policies already exacerbate such problems, right? So if a woman wants to report that kind of instance, or having sexual advances or from male passengers, there's not much mitigation or much response in place from platforms. So on that note, we usually check for these things in the principles, or when we collect data, if women are experiencing these things, we can now assess it and say, okay, the platform is not doing enough in that sense. And I don't know if we noted this earlier, about women being underrepresented. I think Kemi mentioned that and this year, I think over 100 interviews, right? We had just 5 women. So you can see how unbalanced the platform economy is in Nigeria. And this is something the principles are also trying to address, to have that equality amongst everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Daniel. Ayoade, these next questions are for you. There are 2. I'll summarize them into one. To attain its lofty goals, members must possess sound knowledge and be well-behaved. Lofty goals of the new union. Does the union have plans to train and retrain members, regularly updating their skills and knowledge? And then you also mentioned that the union has reached out to stakeholders. How many have they reached out to? What has been their response? What is expected of these stakeholders?
Thank you so much. As I rightly said, there are going to be a lot of training to members. And our members should not think that we cannot discipline ourselves. For example, like if the rider reports our drivers, and we find out that that's why we want a transparency in the activation of a driver. If we find out as a union that truly our member is the one that's guilty, we blacklist that member, and we write to any app company that they should not take that particular person. That is why I want to link our operation with all the app companies in Nigeria, so that they can be able to see that we are a disciplined union and they want to set a good record. It's not about banking table. This is the scientific union of ideas that we put it on the table. As I rightly said, we did not say that our companies will not make money because they are investors. Why not? They put their millions of naira there. Why not? But what we are saying is that the incomes will be balanced. With that, we have our own investment too, which is more than their own investment. We're supposed to have money too. And we did not say the government should not collect tax. Fine, what is the problem there as a good citizen? But everything was put opened. This is the reason why we are taking this. This is the reason why this one is going to this, and this is why this one, that one is going to that. In my perspective, in my own finding, and in my own thinking, I think our company is supposed not to take the kind of percentage they are taking out, considering the area they make money from us. So we are talking about data. We are talking about millions of naira put into their website. Who is getting that? A lot of things we need to open up with it so that this industry we balance on it. Sorry, the second questions, I missed it up. Can you just, sorry.
So the second question is that you mentioned that the union has reached out to stakeholders, to platforms management. How many have you reached out to? What has been your response? What do you expect from them? What kind of response?
Yeah, we have reached out to many of them, especially the leading one, like Bolt, Uber, Lagride, like even the Move. We have reached out to them. But let me just say this: we have more than 2,500 app companies in Nigeria, as at the last time we checked, where many people may not even hear about them. So we are doing this invitation batch by batch, and I can say it, can hear that every stakeholder will be invited and they will be involved. That is why we are doing it as a project, so that we gather our problem, we call them, and all the stakeholders, all the app companies we know, we will be invited, and all other stakeholders we know will be invited, including government parastatal that involved directly in our industry. So everybody will be carried along and be invited. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. I have one final question for you. I think considering this breakthrough of having a union in Nigeria, I think it's really interesting. But at the same time, does this also plan to include other sectors of work, like delivery workers? Because it seems like, it's not that it seems. Dominantly, we have ride-hailing platforms, and that's just what we're hearing about. But does this have a scope where it includes delivery workers, other app-based platforms in the future?
Thank you very much. I know that you follow us and you see our activities.
Yeah.
To be sincere, our target is all app-based workers. Okay. But we want to go one step before another, so that we will not, we have to be very careful about other union too, their scope of, capturing, and we don't want to make an issue when there's a particular union cover a particular place. So, but we know where our scope is, and we know that app-based worker, which maybe it will included everybody that is using app to operate transportation system. But we are not going to that now. And if you watch me very well, I know you are following me on my Twitter and Facebook. We have been trying to do a certain work on Glovo, Gokada, and whatever. I'm just going to streets to, to talk to people. I was the Mosi, all those stuff, to talk to them about the safety, about problems they are going. They go through a lot of problems, which even more than we. The problem they are going through, because like their bike, some of them use a bike and a keke. So, and that is not, in fact, I heard one story in I don't want to mention the place in Lagos when, I was talking to those riders. They told me that, in fact, if they take orders, that particular company did not allow them to use the toilet when people normally go and eat. They have to pursue them. And these are the people that we give order to go and give it to people, and they are pressed. They cannot use the same facility to it. So I have a lot of stories, I have documentation of all those ones, but I don't want to go to it now. There's a lot of bad employment practice concerned to the gig economy, especially the rider, the driver, or what have you. So we need to do things that will make life better for everyone. The most important thing is this. People should know that these people you see on that job, they are educated people. And they're supposed to get a good job, but they find one for themselves instead of go and steal. So the government needs to do something that nobody is worried about the kind of work we're doing now, but people are worried about the kind of money they will take home. And governments should know that side, that if people are not thinking about kind of job they want to do now, they are thinking about the money they will take home. You're supposed to do that particular job they are doing very well, so that you reduce crime, because these are a bunch of intelligent people. If you meet them, some of them have masters, some of them are very, very good in what they are doing. So these are the things. I will just stop there, so because I don't want to deep deeper on what my finding is compared to that arena.
Ayoade, I'm gonna follow up with you, because I think there has to be a way for transparency and understanding. Is there a way for us to collect this data or anonymous reports of this harmful behaviors that is propagating across the country, and publicize that somewhere, so that we can start holding people accountable. We can't have accountability without transparency of these conditions. So I think that is probably a good next step for us.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Blessing, and thanks, Ayoade. I think Ayoade is frozen, but I think these are important and interesting insights that we can bring forward to our stakeholder workshop happening in about 3 weeks, April 13th. More information would follow. I was gonna give Blessing you the final word, but like you already gave the final word just now. So I think if Yinka, it's like you want to add something.
I think that, thank you all very much. The conversations have been very insightful and useful to us all. But I think the what we've just unearthed is that there's a lot of work to be done across the ecosystem. The government also needs to be enabled and aware of what's going on. The organizations that are working here need to realize that independent contractors are still human beings, even though they're not classified as employees, and provide the necessary resources and resources for them to give them that sense of being. And I think going back to the women as well, while we know that in some of these male-dominated sectors, there are women that are left out, but as we continue to grow, and I'm glad Ayoade said that their platform union is for all app-based workers, so we can begin to see what happens in the domestic care workspace, what happens in the artisan space as well, and learn from these things, because as I think Azuka had mentioned, unemployment in Nigeria is rife, and we can't create enough formal jobs. So how do we use platform work and use it responsibly? So I'll stop there. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Inka, and thanks everyone. I think Azuka, we're wrapping up, but I think you dropped off the call earlier. So if you have one final word for everyone, that would be really helpful. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Yeah.
So Fairwork platform owners must recognize and appreciate the fact that they are contributing to society. With the level of unemployment in the country, even though what they are providing appears temporary, it's not the traditional employment, but it serves a purpose in the society, and a very huge one, you know. So if these people, the youths who are engaged via these platforms, if they are not engaged, you want to imagine what the social ills in society would amount to. That's why they must appreciate that they're playing a role and engage the government so that policies, you know, advocacies that can actually improve what they are doing, you know, can be enacted and established. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thanks to everyone for coming. We've gone over time a bit, or quite a lot actually, and apologies for the technical difficulty earlier. If you want to have more conversations about this, again, we'll be having our stakeholder workshop. Isa, Isenvosa, Isa, I see your comments. Some of these things we could continue this conversation in our stakeholder workshop, April 13th. So looking forward to seeing some of you and hopefully all of you there. Thank you. The report is on the website. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you so
See
much,
you soon. Thank you.